And welcome to the No Something Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing except how one Audrey Ember has abandoned us yet again. In the meantime, we will be substituting in one of our many hosts. So let's get the ball rolling with our one and only favorite, Romina with the good hair, the Required podcast. Who is messing up the audio that I worked so hard on. And so Romina with the good hair and the bad audio tonight. And of course, returning to the podcast as a guest host for the roasting of the Instagrams, the one and only man about tech, Viper. And your third and final host with the most, your boy, the Dark Lord of the interwebs, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Something Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like, subscribe, and review.
Bruh.
Yeah, that's weird. What happened? Did my audio, the computer audio, come through, or what? What do you mean?
Don't me. It wasn't you.
Oh, okay.
So I roasted Romina for no reason and everything. We'll get to you.
I'm just like, I was looking at my settings. I'm like, I don't know I don't know. I don't know how that's possible.
You know what? That's my bad for just assuming that was you.
Yo, for real, man. Why do you got to throw me under the bus like that?
Well, I mean, Audrey's not here, so someone has to.
Get out of here. You know what? Speaking of roasting, you're roasting the wrong thing today.
I've got enough for everybody. I've got two hands. They're both rated E for everyone.
All right. So are we going to just jump right into the topic? We're going to talk about Instagram? I mean, you got a camera in your hands. What do you got there?
This is, and do you want to like solo me on this so they can get a look at it real quick?
Yep.
So this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for you watching in the live video audience or the replay, is the Sony FX3 Cineline camera companion to the Sony a7S III. And so this is for all the cinematic goodness. This, of course, has a flippy screen. This has the audio input handle for that good audio to come from my overpriced Sennheiser MKH416, which basically is the same microphone as one Marquez Brownlee MKBHD. And so this will be the new addition to the family. This is a new addition to the family. It will be treated with tender, loving care. Viper knows I take better care of my gear than myself, so it will be well loved.
Cool story, bro.
Bruh.
What about you, Vipe? You got any new gear? Anything that you want to flex?
No, I don't have anything new as of late.
So we only got Roberto Flex Hour today.
That's about it.
Well, it do be like that.
For sure.
For me, this represents, I mean, it leads somewhat into the conversation we're about to have regarding Instagram, because the reason I got this is I have the desire and need to work with more brands. And in working with brands, you do want to, offer them the highest caliber and quality of content that you are able to provide. And so with that in mind, it basically comes down to, how do I make, even better content? How do I make something that is harder to duplicate? How do I make something that allows me to stand out from the competition? And being able to have a tool like this, being able to have something that, one, gives me just more options at the end of the day, that is what is so powerful and so compelling about this. So for me, it basically just comes down to the fact that, you even see the trouble that I've went through even with just the podcast and with my, my live calls and everything like that, that I go all out for things that other people might, not go all out with, just because I want to maintain a very high standard for everything I do. That's all. I mean, it was either that or, it's like other people would spend the money on something more frivolous or some kind of vice, it sounds like a lot of money to throw into all this YouTube stuff and gear as a content creator, but it's literally my career. It's my full-time thing that I do. I'd rather, in my case, my investment of all this is equivalent to the debt that some people spend to go to get a college education. I learn in the field hands-on by using the equipment, and then I actually own all of my things. So at the end of the day, I own assets instead of a liability for the same price. So
I had, when I was first starting out my career in Hollywood, I was very fortunate enough to meet people, very influential people in the industry, actors and directors and producers. And early on, I had a friend who was an actor, and he was a model, an older gentleman, and he told me, he said, the best advice I can give anybody who is a filmmaker or wants to be a filmmaker is, instead of going to USC or going to a university, take the $50,000 that you would spend on the semester or the first year of college and use it to make a film. And that line alone really set up the foundation for how I approached so many of my projects and my career, and the advice that I've given other creators as well. Because money is a great thing, but if it's allocated in the wrong place,
it can't help you.
it's not going to do anything.
Not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And figuring out what the right or wrong place is, I mean, it's very difficult because in the current culture, everyone assumes, and I understand where they're coming from, that if you say things like, well, why are you going to spend all that money in school or this or that, or just do stuff online, or if you happen to be me and you sell coaching or courses, they're going to assume that, well, your agenda is to siphon money for them or something is some kind of scam. But it's like, it really comes down to a very easy way to qualify the value of something. And this does all tie back to like the Instagram and influencer career. I think this all seamlessly tied together is, all right, the downs, what's the worst case scenario downside here? Because the thing is, you can't get a refund on college, for example. You can, if it doesn't work out, get a refund on gear. You can, under most circumstances, if a course isn't what it was promised to be, you can get a refund on that. There's a such thing as PayPal. There's a such thing as chargebacks. There's such thing as credit cards. You can recoup theoretical losses, but also, I don't think anyone has a really good appreciation for how to qualify, how to properly invest in their career, because I feel like content creation is the only career where people think that it's justified to want and to have some kind of full-time career that you would want to make really good money from and invest as little as possible or nothing to it. I find so many people, and there's nothing wrong with if it's all you have, using just your smartphone and like maybe some very cheap accessories, or using a very old camera. If that's all you have and that's all you can do it. I mean, I had to start somewhere too. A lot of people start with nothing or with less, and it's fine. But the issue I have is how many people, and even how many very successful people, keep perpetuating the narrative of trying to do all of this for as little as possible, but still expecting to get as much out of it as like getting the most. You want to get the most out of something while spending the least. There's a scale at which there's an appropriate level for that. And it's my issue with it is expectations and entitlement of, do you really feel like with you shooting on your smartphone, it's that justified to ask a brand for $5,000-$10,000 and you're going to shoot on a $500 smartphone? You don't even want to invest in the outcome that you're producing, invest in making it a little bit better for your community, your viewers. You don't want to put money back into what you're doing. You only want to extract value. You don't want to re-up, and you don't want to commit to just even putting out something better for your people. But you want to be competitive in this arena, and you don't want to put anything down. Really, somebody's going to go hard, and don't complain that they get something different than you. Don't complain about stuff you don't have for work you weren't willing to do.
That's that real talk.
Roberto.
No, that real talk, man. They're not ready for that.
No, I mean,
Viper. Wait, I want to rope you into this for a sec. How did you start Viper? What? Because right now I'm looking at this man, all right, and he's got I'm just going to describe it for the audio people. He's got these sunglasses on. He's indoors right now.
Got
It's
these
8 p.m. at night, 7 p.m. at night. He's wearing sunglasses. He's got these headphones on. What are those headphones?
These are the Sony
Ooh,
WH-1000
you
X5.
had me at Sony, man. You said Sony. All right. He's got Sony headphones. He's got the
Sony
Shure microphone. Viper, how did you get started? Where were your roots?
I am glad you asked me this, Romina, because believe it or not, I started doing content. I started doing everything back in 2018 on my iPad Pro. So I think I had a 2017 iPad Pro, and I was literally shooting and even using the internal microphones of the iPad for everything for like 6 months. So
wow. Yeah. Okay. So you were using the microphone on your iPad.
Yep.
Microphone, camera, and you were editing on it.
Yep. Everything.
Man, you're a crazy man. You know that?
Wildin'.
That's crazy.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
But you had videos out there that had in the wild that had a couple thousand views a piece. Even with your original channel having some problems on the back end, you still had videos out there that had like 10,000 views.
Yeah, there were a few videos out there, definitely.
And not only that, I mean, one of the things that I loved about Viper when he was first getting started was that I was seeing him reaching out to some of the biggest content creators, like no shame whatsoever. And he's just like, yo, come talk to me.
Basically, yeah.
But he was also very understanding and humble about it. And if people said no, he didn't flame them or make a big deal. He didn't get mad or say anything.
No, he would just ping them again a month later.
Yep.
I mean,
I say yes, and then when somebody sees that you're doing something, oh, okay, he's legit, and other people are messing with Viper, like, well, okay, I can do that. It's safe. It's like, okay, somebody else.
It's safe. I mean, look, I ain't gonna lie, right? I get a lot of people who like reach out to me in the DMs and who mention me and are like, hey, let's collab or be on my podcast, which is great. I don't want to discourage people from doing that sort of thing. You got to start somewhere. I'm not open to just like being on anybody's podcast. I don't just want to collaborate with anybody. And it's not because I'm too good or anything like that. It's just that I just don't feel like it. Like if I'm not vibing with a person, I'm probably not going to hang out with them. If I don't have the time, then I'm probably not going to go on some podcast of some guy that I've never heard of before. And I have done that before. And then I've never heard from them again. It's like I'm on like a bunch of podcasts that I've never even listened to, and I don't even remember what the host's name was. But it was just because in that time I had the availability, and I was like, I'm not doing anything that sounds like fun, right? When I first heard about Viper, I was like, all right, who is this guy? He's just going around like he's just like DMing. Like I'm seeing him like publicly like message people. He's like, come be on my podcast, come be on my live stream. I'm just like, whoa, man, like who is this guy? And then I saw that my friends were on there and I was like, all right, you know what? This is a safe space. This is safe. This guy seems chill. He's wearing sunglasses all the time. It's a little sus, but
I think for me, a lot of it was, I think for a lot of people, it's like when we say it's safe, it's like, you're not going somewhere to be dunked on, antagonized, baited, canceled, any of this nonsense. So that, okay, this commitment is not going to be a truly like negative experience. So first of all, that's a big part of it. And then beyond that, seeing like that other people had a good time and other people can vouch, it makes you just more comfortable. And I think that a lot of people take for granted how important it is that if you want to do anything with somebody, how important it is to make them comfortable. I mean, it's down to that. If people are not comfortable, they're justified in saying no to something.
Yeah. And the other thing is that if people are not familiar with you, if like one of my pet peeves about collaboration is if people come into my DMs, and this happens a lot, asking me to be on their podcast or something like that, and that is the first time I've ever seen that person in my life. It really drives me crazy. And I would know because I'm not the biggest creator. I don't have the largest following, so I can pretty much know and remember everybody that rocked with me, that commented on my videos or been in my live chats. I know. So if you come into my Twitter DM, and that's the first time I've ever seen you, I got a problem with that. But you want me to collab with you, but you don't support me in any fashion or way that I can tell of. It makes it hard for me. But I know that might be a Viper thing, but that makes it hard for me.
It's not a Viper. It's literally, it's like even with me.
No. It's a legit thing.
I don't know you. So
yeah, exactly. I don't know you. Who are you?
Yeah, no.
Who sent you?
Yeah, these days, to be frank, you don't even get held quote unquote accountable for what you do. You get held accountable for what the people around you do, which is stupid. I think that's stupid. Yeah. It's like answerable for what I do, and not what you think I did, or what you think I said, or frankly how you felt about what I said or did. To be quite frank, like no. And so when you collaborate with somebody, you are inextricably tied to their brand and to their reputation, and that may not be good, or that might go sideways. But on the other hand, at the same time, I don't feel the need to apologize for my friends, nor do I feel the need to apologize if my friends do something that hurts your feelings or they treat you a way you did. Because like there's two sides. There's their side, your side, and then there's what actually happened. So it's like, and the thing is, I'm not wrong to be frank, until presented with some like tangible, reasonable evidence, I'm not wrong to pick my friend over a stranger in any circumstance, regardless of what someone says about them, or also what someone says about them, because anyone can say anything. It doesn't make it, a fact unless it is. And in that instance, you side with your friends, you side with your family unless you have to side with the evidence. So the thing is, and how someone feels about it is an evidence. How someone feels about it, frankly, is immaterial to what I'm supposed to do about the experience I've had with somebody. I can't go off of your lived experience. I can only go off my lived experience. What are you talking about?
True. Facts. Yeah. I want to circle back for a second. Vipe, so you talked about your humble beginnings with your iPad. At what point did you decide to start upgrading?
This is a very good question, because it's actually due to the man on the podcast to my left here, Roberto. So I was in Roberto's Discord years ago, and I got a DM from somebody in his Discord, and they were like, "Yo, Viper, love your content, but you got to do something about your audio because it sounds like you're underwater." So I went back and I listened to the videos, and I'm like, you know what? They kind of have a point. The audio isn't the best. And at that point, I think it was the next weekend, I went out and I brought the Blue Yeti, the all powerful beginning Blue Yeti. Yeah.
Big YouTubers still use the Blue Yeti.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, for real. And it's funny you said that, because like it means that there is a such thing as like quote unquote valid or legitimate criticism. Sometimes it does exist. It's like rare that it might be. It does exist in the form of valid, something constructive, because you found that helpful and you were able to verify for yourself that, oh yeah, they do have a point. Oh yeah, this could be better. And okay, here's something reasonable. It's not unreasonable to do something about this.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's all about how you approach people with that type of criticism. I mean, if one thing, if he would have been like, "Yo, Viper, your audio sucks, do something about it," and I'd have been like, "Man, shut up." But he's like, "Viper, I love your content, but you can make some improvements on the audio side." At least at that point, I'm more than willing to listen to the criticism. Like you said, Roberto, I went and I investigated it for myself, and I was like, all right, yeah, I could definitely improve the audio. So I went out and I brought the Blue Yeti, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, because you could see for yourself where they were coming from. They're not a hater or anything. You could see where they were coming from, and you could say, you know what? Yeah, I can and should do something about this, and I would want to do something about this on my own anyway.
Yeah, I think more creators, I think creators in general need to be open to constructive feedback, because that's how we improve and get better as creators.
Oh, facts.
I think that just because I don't want to get too derailed from the topic at hand, which you brought up, Roberto, about upgrading your gear. I feel like there's different shades to that, right? Because when talking about upgrading, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody should get on a Red camera as soon as possible, right? It doesn't even mean that you have to get on a DSLR as soon as possible, or mirrorless camera. When talking about creating content with the most minimal equipment possible, it is possible to continue upgrading and keep using the basics. Like, for example, point and shoot cameras, right? I mean, you wouldn't want to use a point and shoot camera from 2008. Maybe you want to use one that's coming out now, right? Sony's got some amazing point and shoot cameras, right?
Yes,
but this is what and I'm interjecting myself into Roberto right now, like his thoughts, but I'm assuming that this is what he means when he says like upgrading. He doesn't necessarily mean that if you are creating content with your iPhone, and you want to be creating content with your iPhone and you're an amazing storyteller, then you don't necessarily have to switch to having a Canon, you know?
I think what you have to do is you have to ask yourself what problem this action solves, which will tie to our Instagram conversations. Like, what problem are you actually trying to solve? Viper trying to solve the specific problem of my audio is bad. It sounds like I'm underwater. Then later it was the fact that it's like you're filming with your iPad was having like inconsistencies with things like autofocus and things like that. And you just felt like, okay, the audio, I have superior audio now. It'd be great to have superior video. And then you went to, a DSLR camera, and then, it put your quality Viper is like second to none. Like, and you're a small YouTuber, but you punch above your weight class in terms of like anyone of your relative size does not have your production value level.
No.
And that makes a difference when people interpret your content. So so it's like, what problem are you trying to solve? I used to shoot on a very crappy camera all the way to 100,000 subscribers. And the reason I changed it was, and I kept changing it largely, I kept changing my cameras because I was hunting for perfect autofocus, to be honest with y'all. And I found it in Sony. It's like, I was hunting for perfect autofocus. Then I'm like, okay, I got perfect autofocus. Then it's like, I make long content. I need like unlimited record times. Sony. Great. It's like, okay, I've got a darker complexion. I'm a person of the melanin. So I need, something that does okay with me, low light, not so much grain, blah, blah, blah. Sony. It just always came down. I need a flippy screen. Sony. It just basically came down to Sony had the answers that I was looking for. And the same thing with the microphone upgrades. It was like, I've gone through every iteration of every type of microphone at this point, and I found the things that work and make my voice sound like me for the most part. So those were the problems I was trying to solve. I was trying to solve a problem of, I don't want to have blurry camera. Like, I don't want my face to go blurry and then I have to explain or justify myself in the comments or avoid posting a video that took me so much time to make. I don't want my video camera cutting out at a point where I need it. Like, I even went to wall dummy batteries plug into the wall so I could just like talk forever and not worry about the battery dying, just avoid that problem altogether. Again, an upgrade or a solution or a technology is about what problem are you trying to solve. Now, for a lot of people, I think when they use their phone, they realize they have a couple problems. One, if you do it outside, phone gets really, really hot, really, really fast. No matter what phone it is, it's just something that happens for the most part, especially iPhones. You know this, Viper, captain of Team Apple. iPhones and the sun don't mix.
No,
so
not usually, no.
And then so you have that. You have the fact that there are so many times, unless you throw your phone into airplay mode, there's phone calls, text messages, and apps that can interrupt what you're trying to create at the time. And then you're compromising on battery life because you're fighting, like the video stuff drains the phone like nothing else. Same thing for the editing. So you're putting yourself in this position to where you're fighting on the battery life side of things. Having a dedicated device to do the job just feels like when you notice the difference. When you don't have any other options, it's fine. Once you ever even experiment with options, it's hard to go back down.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine going backward from where I'm at right now.
I can't create with the same level. I can create with lesser gear. I can create good quality content because my content, as all of you know, is not even owed to my editing. It's largely me carrying it through my knowledge and performance. Same thing with live streaming, right? It's not fancy. The edits, it doesn't mean anything. However, being able to shoot with confidence in the quality of the image, confidence in the quality of the audio, knowing that that is contributing to a good experience for my viewers that they deserve. When I step down from gear, I don't have that same level of confidence in the outcome. And it's not that I think it affects the views and the watch time as much as it does affect the watch time and retention and those things. But I think it's because from my point of view and from my experience, I want the human beings watching my content to have the best video quality that I can give them, the best lighting that can, accurately reflect who I am visibly in skin tones as a person, and the audio so that when you meet me in real life at an event or something, my voice sounds like my voice. I want everything to accurately represent me. and then I want everything to be a good experience, you know, for the people watching. And yes, you do what you can with what you have where you are. The minute I got any money, I didn't upgrade my lifestyle, upgraded my gear.
Yeah. And the other thing about upgrading your gear is that you can upgrade your gear to make your process faster, your workflow faster, or like Roberto, when you have money and the channel begins to pay for itself, then that's another time where you can upgrade gear because you know that the gear will pay for what you're doing, or the channel can pay for your gear. So I would not upgrade gear for the sake of upgrading gear to get in debt, because we know how people can get into debt pretty quickly just by upgrading gear, especially if they have that GAS, Roberto, right? That gear acquisition syndrome. You don't want to do that when you're just starting out.
That gas. I've been accused of having gas. I think what I'm doing at this point is reasonable and necessary. I mean, you could argue it's overkill, but not for the vision. But with that in mind, speaking of visions, speaking of, well, what the hell problem are you trying to solve? Let's roast Instagram. Let's roast Instagram.
Yeah, let's do that.
What problem is Instagram and Adam Mosseri what are they trying to solve by making Instagram into TikTok? What are they doing?
I don't know. If somebody figures it out, can you please explain it to me? Because I'm still trying to get
because they need video.
But they have video.
I'm just quoting it.
It's so weird the way they changed their whole entire layout just to mimic TikTok. Like, oh, dude, no, this ain't it. This ain't it.
Is
Instagram
this
does not need to be TikTok?
What'd you say?
Instagram does not need to be TikTok.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't need to be TikTok. But are you going to stop it from becoming TikTok?
Apparently not, because they are definitely heading the way of the video. According to Adam, their data is telling them that more people were watching video on Instagram than anything. So.
Guys, I learned today that about 40% of Gen Zers use TikTok and Instagram as their search engine.
I saw that
instead of Google.
That's ridiculous. It's true. It's ridiculous and it's stupid and it's dangerous and I don't like it. I want the government. I'm not even the biggest fan of the government. I'm not out here for the government. I'm not about some government regulations. We've established that about me. I think we've established that I'd like them to do as little as possible, and especially with social media. That being said, I will not cry if they shut down TikTok.
Man, we've been talking about shutting down TikTok for over a year.
I will crack open a bottle of wine. I'm not done. I'm not done dunking on TikTok.
Keep going.
I'm only not going to go hard on them and this stream because I want to wait for Audrey to come back so she can...
Wait, I thought we were dunking on Instagram, not TikTok.
Like I told you, two hands. Heck? I told you. I rate 2 hands. They're rated E for everybody.
Roberto ain't playing, y'all.
No,
they brought out the Brooklyn in me.
Yo. So apparently Taylor Lorenz had a really good thread. This is I'm quoting from our chat. Taylor Lorenz had a really good thread about why Instagram needs to pivot to a more TikTok-like experience. And see, this is all right. And this is what happens when you listen to Taylor Lorenz.
Woo! Shots fired on the podcast. Listen, I am not trying to listen to anything Taylor Lorenz is saying. Okay, I followed her for a while until she was constantly involved in drama, and then she had that whole scandal with her about lying on certain YouTubers and creators, and I was done after that.
I'm too young to be involved in drama.
Oh, she buried in it. I'm done with that.
I care about money too much to be involved in drama.
Yeah, you want a different kind of drama.
So yeah, I have no interest in anything that she's saying.
Safe kind. Like, where do I put my $1,000? Where do I put this $10,000? How do I spend this $15,000?
Look, my goal in life is to basically reduce life to a never-ending struggle between me and the government, in which I just leave like
wow.
Yeah.
Now, how does the Instagram tie to all this?
Instagram is making a mistake of here's what all the platforms are doing, but in particular Instagram, because like you said it yourself, Gen Z is doing all this. It's like these platforms need to stop kissing Gen Z's ass.
church.
Like,
Love
why? It's like Gen Z, no offense to them, they're young, right? They're young and they're like the brokey audience. Millennials, we are not in the old folks' home yet. We are actually becoming homeowners. You know, the thing these kids keep saying, I'll never be a homeowner and everything because capitalism sucks, because I can't win at it, because I don't have any actual skills and I'm a whiny little brat and I don't have a thick skin and I'm wildly undisciplined because I scroll with 15 seconds, over and over and over again and have no damn attention span, no commitment to anything, no loyalty to anything, and don't really believe in anything except how much of a victim I am. Yeah, I said it. They have and that's not everyone in there. By the way, that's not everyone in their generation. There are a couple of standouts, but the standouts, the hustlers, the hard workers, the builders in Gen Z are the exception. They're not the rule. They're the exception, not the rule. The young hustlers club in Gen Z, the ones who don't sit there and cry about how toxic hustle culture is and cry about how cringe Gary Vee is. And while literally all of the content creators that they grew up worshiping their whole damn life literally just stole Gary Vee's playbook and used to kiss his ass and everything like that until their immature, younger sibling fan base and everything like that decided Gary Vee was toxic and cringe and everything like that. And then they stab the godfather that helped build their damn careers in the back. Yeah, I said the quiet part out loud. Shout out to Gary Vee for being a real one, and also shout out to all the fakes and the backstabbers and the betrayers and the losers who sit there and bend to the will and the mercy of their audience of look.
You're not wrong, Roberto. You're great, but you got to calm down, man. All right, you're cutting years off your life. You got to take a breath and relax. So I just want to address upscaled internet in the chat. I see you. Basically talking about how our habits have changed online, how we consume, what we share, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, okay, that's all true and everything. But the reason that IG is suffering an identity crisis, which is what you said right now, upscaled internet, is because they are trying to be something that they're not. And in trying to be something that they're not, they are becoming this hodgepodge of all these things that are not a specific identity. And so it's not so much that we want old school Instagram, so much as we want a dedicated platform that serves a specific purpose and isn't trying to be another platform that we already have access to.
It's unnecessary for a TikTok clone to exist for the most part. And even if one were to exist, it should not be Instagram, and that should not be its modus operandi. If we want an American-owned version of TikTok, which I would be fine with there being an American-owned version of TikTok, I know people have beef with it, but maybe it's Triller. And if it's not Triller, maybe it's Byte. And if it's not Byte, maybe it's something else. But if there's an American-owned thing that is essentially a TikTok clone, in theory, because TikTok may get shut down or China may do something with Taiwan and there will be sanctions like with Russia, it's like, fine, whatever.
Right.
But I love this one of her as a Gen Z. I've never been so offended by something I 100% agree with. Thank you. That's exactly what I was going for. It's
yes, thank you.
Yes.
I think that in terms of Instagram, like everything you just said right now, Roberto, like 100%. And I think that it's very difficult for two platforms that are identical to exist at the same time. That's why when we had Vine, we had Vine.
Yeah.
And that's why when we had Musical.ly, we had Musical.ly. And there was not, and the overlap between various apps having the center stage is very minimal. There's not a lot of overlap because people's attention can only be in certain amount of buckets. Like they can't be in everything. And so it really helps a platform to stand out and be different, right? So like have Instagram be for photos. Yeah, it can be for videos as well, but have it be for photos. Like why prioritize it? Exactly. And that's not to say that we can't have another platform emerge that's like a TikTok, We could, but the problem is that so many people, the majority of people who joined Instagram because of photos. They didn't join Instagram because of video. They joined YouTube because of video. And so it makes it very difficult to force that narrative onto the users of a platform.
Thank you.
Should solve a problem that the other platform had a vulnerability or failed to answer to. And I'll give you an example of this, a primary example. The problem that TikTok solved was it gave people that old school YouTube hit of virality, the randomness of virality. Everyone has a supposedly equal shot at being famous from nothing. And it also lowered the barrier of entry to the highest quality content, going back to being something you could make from your phone and none of this fancy production stuff. And so that also created the illusion of authenticity. And so that was things that they felt YouTube had moved beyond. So by reintroducing, because ironically, what TikTok did is it did go back to old school. TikTok went back to old school for all the Gen Z kids who missed out on being YouTubers, but saw and grew up watching YouTubers have that. That's all it did. And the only thing that was unique was it was short form and vertical. But it really just was old school YouTube, but short form and vertical, and giving Gen Z what they saw millennials enjoy.
Here's the thing. So I'm seeing Upscaled Internet's argument, and I watched the video. Too. I know that they said that they have the data. I know your arguments.
If they cared about shareholders, we wouldn't be doing the metaverse.
The reason that they care about that data is because they are trying to make more money. But the truth is that there are going to be more people who prefer broccoli over cauliflower.
If they cared about
that's just how it is.
No, I'll tell you, Upscaled Internet. TikTok does not make the money that YouTube does. It's not even close. Number one. Two, I'll tell you TikTok's real vulnerabilities beyond the China arguments. TikTok is going to have a reckoning under the guise of the exploitation of content creators, in addition to legitimate concerns about its radicalization and polarization in the same way that Facebook did. But on the other hand of it, it's going to have to justify the exploitation of creators and its lack of true profit sharing and the barriers to profit sharing that it has. And it's going to have to answer for its failure to protect everybody equally in enforcing its policies, because it only seems to care about and protect certain specific, very specialized groups of people, and not offer protections generally to everybody when it comes to comments and toxicity. And there are other platforms who have been held accountable for that before, not to mention the problems that they've had with predators. And so they're going to have a reckoning for all these reasons outside the China thing over a period of time. And that should be inevitable if Gen Z wasn't so damn hypocritical and self-righteous, because with everybody, no, because it's like they're touted out as the most ethical and moral, and they are touted as the generation of accountability. They've been branded by the media as the generation of accountability. And I call BS. I call BS on that nonsense, because it's double standards, and it's only when it's convenient for them. Because if they did care about any of that and they cared about the human rights they talked about, again, they'd be holding TikTok accountable for the CCP stuff. But beyond that, real conversation about the exploitation of the revenue sharing. If they really cared, they would be talking about the radicalization that their algorithm is responsible for. But the media wrote all these hit pieces about YouTube and radicalization. They wrote all these pieces about Facebook and radicalization. They made all these posts about Instagram making young girls depressed and making women depressed and everything like that. Where's the goddamn accountability for TikTok? It doesn't exist, because it's wrapped up in this flag of virtue, this aesthetic of virtue, and then protected and surrounded by being the definitive identity platform of Gen Z's woke self-righteous bullshit. So, I mean,
what does that have to do with Instagram?
The reason it has to do with Instagram is that Instagram should have copied YouTube if it was going to copy anyway. If Instagram was going to copy and be more like anyone, it should have copied YouTube. It should have done a 50% ad revenue equity with creators, and then they'd have more creators creating for their platform. Number one. Number two.
You're not wrong. I agree. Yeah, you're not wrong.
With IGTV wanting to be vertical video and make themselves unique, because they decided off of TikTok that this unique vertical video thing was going to be so special and everything like that. No, they ended up having to cave to widescreen, and by then it was too late. They should have been widescreen. They should have announced it as widescreen, and they should have announced ad revenue for creators at the same time. And then it would have been something that says, hey, we have YouTube as an outlet and we have Instagram as an outlet. They should have said, hey, we're also going to make it to where if you got 1,000 followers on Instagram already, welcome to the ad revenue and the ad sharing, and all you got to get is 1,000 followers. They would have done all of that. They would have been parallel.
100%.
They would have been one of the definitive creator economy platforms on that right from the jump. They should have also immediately opened or acquired a brand deals marketplace, since they know the majority of the creators who earn money on there earn it from brand deals. They should have taken that because YouTube did that. They bought FameBit. Instagram should have bought Grapevine Logic, or they should have bought Relio, or they should have bought any number of these brand deal influencer creator marketplaces. They should have that's what they should have done. That's what they should have done. And as a shareholder, that's what I would have wanted and expected. As a creator, that's what I would have expected. And as a viewer, I could have lived with those compromises in my feed, knowing that, hey, there's creators getting paid. Hey, I have another option for a horizontal video experience. Hey, maybe Instagram has a better video experience, maybe that's competitive to YouTube or parallel, or better than Twitch at least. And then it becomes, oh, wow, it's YouTube and Instagram instead of YouTube and Twitch. That's what they should have done.
I mean, is there anything left to say after that? I don't know if there's anything left to say. I think Roberto hit everything on the head right there. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think that's like the most important thing about all these platforms. They need to figure out a way to properly pay creators. And that is still TikTok's biggest problem. They haven't figured it out yet. I know they're working on some things, but they still haven't figured it out. Instagram is doing a little bit better with the way they're paying people via Reels, but they still haven't got it on YouTube level.
On average for views, they pay better than TikTok at least. And again, YouTube now offers 10 to 12 ways for creators to monetize.
Yeah.
It offers the most diversity of monetization. It offers multiple monetization offers outside of ad revenue, but it also doesn't entirely rely on your audience actually, always spending money directly or buying. They have a lot of ways to support. Even with the YouTube Premium, if they're on that, they are supporting all creators they watch at any given point passively. Even with demonetization being an issue, that still works. And so there's all these things that, for all of the things it gets right, YouTube gets so much crap. And ironically, the only thing that, like, part of the reason TikTok gets praised so goddamn much is because, frankly, they brokered some deal where they actually shell out more money to the music industry than they do to creators. So, like, talk about selling out. They literally are basically bought and owned by the music companies, which is basically the mafia at this point. But also people I can use my favorite song without a copyright claim and everything like that. I can get famous for no reason because there's a popular song, because someone more talented than me did something, and all I'm doing is dancing or lip syncing, and now I can be famous, and now I can get a little bit of money for doing very little. And so they're praised for that outcome. YouTube only gets dragged because of copyright at this point. YouTube solved almost every other problem that creators complain about at this point to some extent, and all they get dragged for now is copyright claims. And people cry because they can't get monetized on YouTube, and then they go to TikTok and everything like that, and then they overwork themselves for 1/100th of the fraction of the value that they would get with the same views on YouTube if they actually hustled and got monetized. It's ridiculous and exploitive and wrong.
The other thing that Romina kind of alluded to earlier is that when you build a platform and it becomes known for something, it's extremely difficult to change that perception. Like she was talking about earlier, Instagram, we know Instagram for photo. People go to Instagram to look at pictures. They're not necessarily going to Instagram to look for video. That's just not what it is. When we go to TikTok, we're going to TikTok for short form content. We're not going to TikTok for YouTube style long form content. And consequently, when we go to YouTube, we're not going for YouTube shorts. We're going for the long form video. That's what YouTube was built upon. That's what the perception is of it. And it's hard to change that perception.
We don't go to Twitch for the VODs. They're there, but we go for the stream.
Right, exactly. So when you got all these platforms trying to intermingle with each other, it just becomes one big mess.
Unique selling position, unique value proposition. This used to be old school business fundamentals 1 and 101 and everything. So by selling out your uniqueness to be a clone of, you've given up. Like if I have to copy somebody else because what I'm doing isn't good enough in terms of that, it's a problem. At least with the suggestions I'm making to Instagram, it's not that they would be cloning YouTube. It's that they would still hold their unique value propositions, but it'd be a true extension of that doesn't contradict its own identity. So it's a value add instead of being transformative in a way. It's not you distorting the, hey, you're not who I signed up for. It's that, oh, you're bringing more value to the table. You stepped up. There's a difference.
Yep.
You can have reels, but prioritizing them over the feed, invading the feed experience and everything like that. And they're not listening to their creators. They're not listening to their users. They're not listening to the meta shareholders, because if what meta shareholders, it's like, I mean, I hold stock and I think you hold stock, Romina. Are we really happy with the direction and the fact that like it's lost like what, 40% of its freaking value? Like, I mean, are we really happy here?
No.
Again, they're all in a metaverse. It's like that doesn't answer any of the actual glaring problems that Facebook and Instagram have.
It's the buzzword. It's the buzzword. The YouTube Boxing Central brought up a good point, and then I think it's something that I relate to is I still think long form is king. Feel like I wasted time when I watched 2 hours of short form. And you know what? Until I read that, I hadn't really thought about it like that, but I feel that way as well. When I watch short form content for a long period of time, it feels like I've wasted that time. But if I watch a longer form content in that same amount of time, it doesn't feel as bad. So
did you have to go?
Yeah, he did have to go. I was about to smooth into that, but he didn't give me a chance.
We enjoyed having you, Viper.
So Viper did have to leave right on the dot. Well, we all have to leave right on the dot, but Viper especially. But I think we've got like maybe 10 more minutes.
Sure.
Just to wrap things up and
Indeed.
Hang out with a couple of people. What is this? A 40% drop?
I was talking about Facebook's value.
Oh, yeah.
Year to date. I think it's 40% year to date.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody say bye Vipe in the chat, and we'll send him a screenshot of everybody saying bye. I have this idea. They innovated and have since the start. Yeah, Snap. Snap has been pretty good at changing up what their business model is, which has helped them immensely in such a competitive industry because they were already losing.
Yeah,
like
it's why
very early on
to survive. I respect Snap for not giving up the ghost, like for not giving up the ghost. And for anyone who doesn't get the joke, their icon is literally a ghost.
But also for innovating instead of trying to clone a model that's already working.
I still think that Evan Spiegel is not necessarily the best person to lead at this point, because I respect Evan as an entrepreneur and as an innovator. I kind of respect him for not selling out the Zuck. But, however, I think that they embraced creators too late.
True.
I think that was what really hurt them. If I'm being, I mean, that's what I feel about most of these platforms. Is I feel like the reality is, people only really come to these platforms for the people that create on them. The platforms themselves think that they're more special than they are, and they are special, and they are giving the opportunity. But they need to embrace the culture of the creators, and they need to understand that their success is intrinsically tied to their creators. And I'm not saying they have to be creator first. I think you have to be consumer first. I won't say that you have to be creator first. It hasn't worked out for anyone who's tried it. But I do think that you have to respect creators and understand that where the creators go, the audience follows. And that's how it is. And the thing is, if you look at Instagram, it's giving the finger and it's giving a big FU to the people who built the foundations of it. And even those people are speaking out and they're being largely ignored. And even again, I don't think as a shareholder that I'm like, I don't agree with that. And so if you want to say, oh, they have a responsibility to shareholders, the shareholders don't agree with this decision either.
Yeah. Which I think is something important to talk about as well, is that if you are a shareholder in a company, it's important to be in the know with what is going on in the company and get involved. You don't just own stocks. You are a shareholder and you have the opportunity to vote and steer the direction in which a company is going and give feedback. And that's what that means to be a shareholder. That's what it means to own stock in a company. So if there is something that you don't like, or if there is something that you'd like to see more of, you can vote on it.
Yeah, I buy 100 shares of something I believe in so that I can vote in many cases, because usually that's about what you have to do. And also, when a company has more than one, stock in it, I buy the voting shares. Like that's what I do, is I buy the voting shares.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's important to think about these things, and I think more creators themselves should, because it's not financial advice, I think more creators should invest in the companies that build the tools and platforms that they use. And I think that they won't always offer us equity and parity through revenue sharing. But imagine if the public at large that bought the stocks in the creator economy companies were people who are actively participating in the creator economy. Imagine if literally the companies, again, they don't have to give us the stocks. We can buy it. We can buy a controlling interest collectively as creators in the companies that dictate our livelihoods. And we should. Imagine if ultimately half of the board, due to shareholder interest, was a collective of creators at all of these companies. Things would be radically different if the people sitting in the boardroom were the Marquez Brownlees, the Ijus Deans, the Casey Neistats, the Colin and Samirs, the Mr. Beast. It'd be radically different if these are the people that are, and I think it's coming, I think it's going to happen, they're sitting in the boardroom at these companies, because I think creators need to build the next platforms, the next companies per se. I mean, I think that's the skill.
Yeah, 100%. And not just the OG creators, and not just the creators that are, the top percentage of creators who are doing this full time, but also the ones who are doing this part time and the ones who are just getting started. It's good to have a mix of them, because that way we can get a nice range of in what direction a company needs to be going in.
Well, I only use those names just to
I know.
Picture of a boardroom in people's heads of like a bunch of old stuff,
right,
and then these creators that they would know. But I agree with you 100%. It's why I'm not one of these big creators. I mean, I'm a mid-tier creator. I'm what is referred to either as a mid-tier or macro creator, because I'm on the middle at 500K. I'm right in between. But I'm an advisor to a lot of the mega creators at 1 million, 10 million plus. And I actually also am an advisor to a lot of the brands that do brand deals with the biggest creators and most of the smaller creators too. And I'm an advisor in many creator economy companies, Kajabi, Spreadshop, StreamYard, TuneBuddy. The list is growing. I'm probably going to be on like 5 more over the next 2 years. I'm an investor in some companies like Creative Juice. So I'm trying to help steer the ship so it doesn't go over the edge or crash into the damn iceberg when it comes down to it, where I can. I'm not going to be able in many cases to be on the platforms level. Some of them I will talk to and consult with. Some of them will pick my brain. Some of their people will pick my brain from time to time, but I don't really have much of a say there. And there's a limited amount of influence that I have. And I'm not so naive as to think it's more than that. I would like it to be one day, but there's a point where I do hope that there become things like creator councils that are taken very seriously and are listened to in this situation. Because I think it's really important. And I think it's really frustrating for people to see, the creators to see their livelihoods upended in these decisions that they have no say in and that they can't really do anything about. That's unreasonable in my opinion. And we can't do something like, as much as people say, oh, unionize. It doesn't work. We're in a decentralized ecosystem. There are a lot of benefits to that, but you also can't unionize something that's so decentralized. It doesn't make sense, and it wouldn't work across all these borders. Like, that's the other thing about globalization. So you can't simultaneously have unionization, decentralization, and globalization. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't, the material science doesn't gel for that. It's not functional. What I do think you can do, as unfortunate as is you could form a lobby, but which is, but
right.
But still, you got to work with the, what is it they said in Troy? It's like we play with the toys the gods give us, right?
Ooh. Yeah.
So you go that route. But I mean, I do think it's a shame that, because I don't think it's just a vocal minority. I think it is a very important distinction to recognize that it's like creators are stakeholders, because where's your platform without them?
Yeah. I want to address something in the chat that came up. And that is YouTube creator customer service is terrible.
Service, because no one's paying. If you pay Google even a little bit of money, your customer service will be fantastic. In fact, as an advertiser, my customer service is they call me so much, I had to tell them to stop. The reason that YouTube customer service is trash is because they literally pay you to market yourself. You do not buy anything from them. You're not a customer. You're not a customer in reality.
I feel like there's different stages to that, because I definitely felt like that I would not utter those words. And I feel like I had a very warm welcome from YouTube from the inside. I very often I had people who contacted me. I had a YouTube manager. I had people who were taking care of me from the inside, who would make sure that they could answer my questions in the best way that they could. Obviously, when there's stuff like, what happened with like, the stuff that happened with people losing like subscribers, like algorithm stuff, like there's just flukes that happen on the platform. And some of the people, they don't have an answer for it. Sometimes the engineers don't even have the answer for it.
If you're monetized, something YouTube Boxing Central may not know is that if you're monetized, you actually have chat support in YouTube, like you do in most things from a customer service standpoint today. Most things don't have a phone number. And if you do, it's terrible, to be honest with you. I'd rather not. You do have chat support, and the chat support is actually really good. It's actually really good. But the thing is, most content creators do not realize that they even have chat support. I had like 50 comments when I showed that in one of my monetization videos that, oh yeah, I have to mention it almost every time I talk about change to monetization, is that you have chat support. Even the big creators, like, I think people get confused. Big creators don't necessarily know how YouTube works. They know how to grow an audience and how to get views. It's not the same thing, my homie. Like, big creators, I'm talking people with 4 million subscribers. I've talked to people in DMs with 4 million subscribers that didn't know a couple of things. One, they didn't know that they could, people with 4 million subscribers, I'm not even kidding. Like, Romina, I think you know who I'm talking about. Like, did not even know that they could ban words from their comment section. Didn't even know that they had community management features where they could ban individual words from their comment section. I had a creator that has 10 million that didn't know that they could block certain ads from showing on their channel in their AdSense publishing settings. Did not know. Big creators are used to like things like going to Twitter and doing this and that. That doesn't mean that there aren't other things or ways to approach it. Big creators also, I don't know why they go to Twitter to get likes, not to get things fixed, because big creators have partner managers they can go to. They literally have someone that they can write an email to. Sometimes they have actual phone numbers. They can go, no, do not treat Renee Ritchie just because YouTube liaison. Do not do that. But there are people I know. Who literally know that they're big creators. They literally have 5, 6 contacts at YouTube that they could call for something. They do not need to tweet. No one with 1 million subscribers needs to tweet at YouTube to get anything done. I promise you. They're doing it to do it. Now, there are people that are lower than that. They could, but the reality is they don't have to do that. They could literally chat support. But I know people with 100,000 subscribers that I had to tell just last week, because I made an update to the monetization thing because they did the Shopify thing. I had to literally tell people with silver damn play buttons, why don't you use chat support? And they're like, chat support? I'm like, yeah, go click this icon up. I didn't even know that was like, I think that a lot of people do not realize that big YouTubers do not understand the systems of YouTube and the platform.
Yeah.
They understand how to make entertaining content and grow an audience.
You
And
don't. Here's the thing.
not shade. That's not shade. I'm like, how many things can someone be good at? To be honest, how many things
Right.
can they be good at?
I feel like
There's so much. How can they keep up? It changes so much.
There are a number of different ways in which you can contact YouTube.
Yeah.
Email
support, chat support. If you have a product manager.
I mean, again, Twitter. I mean, there's really nothing. I don't see why there's anything wrong with that. I mean, before there used to be, what was that website? It wasn't Get Satis. What was it called? It was like a thing. It was like the WordPress of customer support. Like a lot of startups and tech companies. No, it wasn't Get Human. It was something else.
It was something like that. It was something.
I'm sure I'll remember it, but no, it definitely was not Get Human. But there were some others where it was like it would build like a forum, right? And you would have like customer support, and you'd actually like the companies would employ people to work, but they were working on this website, right? So you had to go off platform if you wanted to do this customer support. Twitter slowly became that. So a lot of companies will use Twitter, and I use Twitter for customer support. Like I DM huge companies like all the time, like Chase, whatever. Like all these companies have customer support set up on Twitter. Like they have an @support Chase or whatever.
Chase, Delta. God.
So I don't see anything wrong with needing to hop onto Twitter or another platform to contact customer support. But again, YouTube does have a number of different ways that you can contact them. I mean, there's like emails, there's like emails using like their support, like their form. And then there's also they've got like forums.
There's like only 4. Yes, they have a support forum too, actually.
Yeah.
4 things people actually, let's be real.
And the chat.
Let's be real. There's only 4 things that people at YouTube at. They at YouTube because their account got hacked. Okay, fair play on that one. They at YouTube because why hasn't my monetization or this feature kicked in? I hit the requirements and everything. So they're just impatient and just wait. Just wait. If it's more than a week or 2, then do something. But it's like they're literally within like an hour, so they can play. And then it's copyright, which is like you literally use somebody else's stuff, just like kind of like either appeal it or just shut the hell up. It's like you use somebody else's stuff. So there's that, or they feel that they were wrongly like got a strike or something like that, or whatever, so, which usually they're in the wrong. It's very rare that they're not. So that's it at this point. That's it at this point. If YouTube just had like slightly, if creators stopped being really stupid about clicking on things they shouldn't click on, number 1, and then number 2, if YouTube literally just did hire more staffing on the security side, which I think is very valid, okay, then that would reduce the problems to essentially copyright, which largely is on the creators at this point, to be very fair, aside from false copyright claims, which YouTube could do something more about, but that's it. But that's literally it. There's nothing else to complain about anymore. It's mostly self-inflicted. There's nothing to complain about.
True.
Like, what do you do if you make content that doesn't rely on fair use? You never complain on Twitter unless you get hacked.
True.
Never. There's nothing, because there's nothing to complain about.
I mean, that's probably why I had such a smooth ride.
Yeah, because you're not relying on using other people's intellectual property.
Yeah, I'm too busy making my own.
Which is messy. It's literally a messy thing. You like, you make a mess and then you complain. You make a mess and then you complain.
Alrighty. Well, I think we should start wrapping up.
Yeah.
And you got any last words, Roberto?
I mean, the main thing is we ended up on a YouTube tangent, but that's because they set the goal. They set the bar very high for expectations for creators. But I think it comes down to, I mean, when Audrey gets back, we'll do the roasting of TikTok.
Next week.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. Like, let's go. Like, we'll do the roasting of TikTok. But I think what it comes down to is, I think that if platforms try to cater to and mirror Gen Z, they'll end up with the same identity crisis that Gen Z itself has. Because I think that's the problem. I think Gen Z's entire problem is it's struggling for identity and it decided to find itself in some very specific ways. But I don't think that those things are have permanence or scale, because I think that it's just growing pains, and I don't think it'll last. I do not think the current culture is something that will last, or even something that'll be that fondly remembered, to be very real with you. I don't. I think that this is just a transitional point. And I think in 3 to 5 years, people will look back on this and they won't they'll disavow themselves from this time in history, to be honest, and their behavior in this time. In 3 to 5 years, I promise you, people will disavow themselves from the behavior they had. And it won't be millennials and Gen Xers that disavow themselves from the behavior they had in this period. It will be Gen Z. It'll be just Gen Z that pretends that this era didn't happen. Do you realize how many people I know who grew up on the internet and they were diehard fans of a bunch of these Viners, and today they're embarrassed by it and by how much of a fanboy or fangirl they were for this stuff? Do you realize how much they disassociate with that past? It'll be the same thing with Gen Z and this whole TikTok generation. I promise you. It's already happening. I'm already seeing people grow up over the next couple of years and be like, yeah, I was really super into TikTok and this and that. And then it's like, and they're like, nope, not anymore. Like, nope, I don't like mess with that anymore. Don't mess with them anymore. You also have the biggest stars in TikTok leaving and doing other things and going mainstream. The D'Amelios, this one, that one. It's like, I mean, what even, I mean, again, no offense to other creators or the mid-tier creators and everything like that, but it's like, who is, aside from Kabi Lame, who is even still really big on TikTok and known for their TikToks anymore? They blew up and then they moved on.
Wait, we can talk about this next week because I gotta go.
Yep, same.
Alrighty, are you gonna give us an outro?
Andy has a great point. Like, it's like, yep, typically how it is. Look how many people disavowed themselves from H3 and Filthy Frank. Yes, iDubbbz, all kinds of people. Like, I know creators who are embarrassed to say that, that they ever watched, like, you know, Rice Gum, for example. So like, there's like, or the Pauls. There's just, you know, now people are distancing themselves from saying they ever watched Dobrik. Like, even big YouTubers are all like distancing themselves, pretending that they weren't literally shouting Dobrik out every week. So how convenient. But anyway, we got to run. We will catch you next week. Let's do the outro. Thank you for listening to the No Something Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. Tune in next week for the return of Audrey Ember while we roast the TikTok into oblivion. This has been your duo. Thank you and shout out to our guest Viper. We'll catch you next week. This is Romina with the good hair and Roberto the Dark Lord signing out. Nope.